Investment management versus wealth management. Why it's important, why you need to know, and why it makes a difference. Hey, Caleb here with Milestone Financial Group, and today I want to talk to everybody about two misunderstood, two confused, two overlapping concepts that are very, very important, but have a massive difference on how you view and plan for your life and retirement. Those two terms are investment management and wealth management. They sound very similar, but they can have very different ways that you look and take care of your finances, your family, or your business. What does investment management mean? And most people are, more familiar with this term than wealth management. Investment management is just like it sounds, the management of your investments, your portfolio, your returns. What stocks do I own? What bonds do I have? Do I have mutual funds, ETFs? Investment management is a huge component of wealth management. It's the biggest driver of that wealth. But over time, it can ignore a lot of other things and be fairly narrow in scope. So at Milestone Financial Group, we try to broaden it out and look at the overall wealth management of a client's life and family. Wealth management is a much broader, much more comprehensive look at your financial life, not just your investments. Looking at somebody's comprehensive life, it's investment management, what types of accounts they have, where are those, how are they positioned, but it's also what insurance do you have in regards to life insurance, health insurance, how those things impact your family, your needs, your protection. What is your tax situation now? What does it look like gonna look like in the future? And how are potential changes gonna impact it, whether you're retiring or selling a business? Investment management asks, what should I put in my portfolio? Wealth management asks, what should I be doing across the different areas? Business owners are the main ones that can benefit from wealth management. Most of the time they do think about it in an investment management term because, they're investing in their business, they're growing their business, they're thinking about what the next step are, and even if they're, an investor and also in their retirement accounts, it's all about the performance, the numbers, the hard tangible things that, you can measure, which are very important to growing your wealth. But that wealth management broadens it out for business owners and asks, how do you want to retire on your path, on your terms, which looks different for everybody. And it's not just in the sense of returns. Business owners also have very much complex tax situations. You might not have proper beneficiaries in place. You might not be using the right types of accounts. It might ignore cash flow budgeting decisions. Wealth management overtakes investment management over time because our lives become more complex. As you get closer to that retirement date, that sale of the business, that exit, that wealth management becomes more important because the decisions are much more longer term, much more longer impacting. It really takes a look at what is the impact to the business owner, the spouse, the family, the employees, and how can they get there, in the most efficient way. What we've seen happen too many times is, when you're not planning for the long term, not looking at the total wealth picture, sales can happen fast, either from a business perspective or from a volatile time in the market where emotions take over. Taxes can take a bigger bite than expected without looking forward, knowing the tax laws, knowing how they change, and knowing how they could impact you in the future. If you're a business owner starting to think about your exit, with what wealth management planning can do for you is incorporating all those pieces together, making sure you're not making decisions just in a silo or only considering one or two components. The business owners that struggle the most are the ones that waited too long and had to move too fast. When your timeline shrinks, your options shrink with it. When you don't know the difference between wealth management and investment management, decisions get confusing. You don't know what to do when things come up. What we try to be at Milestone Financial Group is sometimes what we call your financial quarterback. Somebody that can coordinate all those players on the field to go in the same direction, to pull the same weight at the same time. And wealth management is kind of recognizing that interconnected play between your investments, your lifestyle, your needs. Without that trusted person that can sit there and know those different components or know different resources to lean on for those different components, it can be challenging to do it yourself, which is often why people just focus on investment management. When you're aiming for a work optional lifestyle. The real question is about how your accounts are doing. The real question then is, are you on a clear path to retire from your business or the workplace on your terms? Wealth management requires more than just good investments. It requires a plan. At Milestone Financial Group, we'd be happy to be your financial quarterback and coordinate all those moving parts and pieces so you can retire with clarity and control and not with the chaos.